Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics front office continues to be one of the most active front offices in the NBA, as they have made another trade this morning acquiring Juan Hernangomez from the Memphis Grizzlies, who was formerly sent there throughout the offseason in the Jarrett Culver trade. He is going to Boston in return for Kris Dunn, Carsen Edwards, and a 2026 second round pick swap. So I'm going to talk about how I feel about this move for Boston, why they've made this move, and then as well for Memphis. As Memphis continue to be one of the most active teams this offseason as well. Two very active teams making a move here early on this Friday morning. It is worth noting that this deal will not become official until September 15th, once the contracts of Dunn and Carsen Edwards are at a point where they can be allowed to be involved in a trade. So, of course, this could fall through, but it has been agreed, and all signs would indicate that Juan Hernangomez is going to be a member of the Boston Celtics next season, and Kris Dunn and Carsen Edwards are going to be heading to the Memphis Grizzlies. So as far as Boston goes, they had an absolute surplus of young guards on the team, and Kris Dunn definitely is one of the younger ones, but Carsen Edwards definitely is, and it still leaves them next year, as far as guards go, with Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Peyton Pritchard, Tremont Waters, assuming he comes back, Josh Richardson, Aaron Naismith, and Romeo Langford. They still have an absolute abundance of guards, and you could argue definitely a lack of players at small forward, although Langford might play a little bit there, or Naismith might play a little bit there if needed, and Jason Tatum can go up as well and play there. Point being, they have a lot of guards, and so trading away a couple of guards here makes sense. And they bring back someone in Juan Hernangomez, who will most likely fill in at a backup power forward spot. And now they do have some players here on the depth chart that can play that spot. Obviously, Al Horford can play there. Grant Williams can play there as well as Jabari Parker. But Al Horford at this point in time in his career, or at least personally, is much better off at the center position. He just doesn't have the mobility to play at the power forward spot in today's modern game. So I don't think he's going to line up at the power forward spot all that often in behind Jason Tatum. Grant Williams just got a new contract, but offensively he doesn't offer that much. He's more of a defensive option. And of course, Jabari Parker came into the league last year. And offensively, he can still give you a little bit of buckets, but defensively, he's still as useless as he ever was, unfortunately. So Juan Hernangomez, he himself is not great defensively either, but he is a fairly solid offensive option. He's a fairly good spacing 4 and 3-point shooting 4, although his numbers were down last year with Minnesota. But he has shown flashes in the past that he can still be a solid spacing 3-point shooting big. His rebounding ability is decent as well. It's not anything amazing, but he can be a decent rebounder for you. And at 6'9" at the power forward spot, he does give you a little bit nice size and length, but on the perimeter in the paint, he's really just not that great of a defender in any aspect of it, unfortunately. So Boston don't really have a great two-way guy for the backup power forward spot. But they have options now. They can go defensively with Grant Williams. They can go offensively with Jabari Parker. They can go 3-point spacing with Juan Hernangomez. And so obviously Brad Stevens saw a need for a better backup point forward or power forward, or at least a different role in terms of their backup power forward, so they can mismatch guys. They can rotate different guys into the lineup depending on matchups, however he sees fit. But nonetheless, they have brought him in. And essentially Kris Dunn's a solid backup point guard, but he only had a year left on his deal anyways. They just acquired him this summer via the Tristan Thompson 3-way trade that sent Kris Dunn from Atlanta to Boston. And then you get rid of Carsen Edwards, who, looked okay last year as a okay backup guard, but he definitely wasn't anything special. He was lower down on the depth chart than a lot of their other young guards. Peyton Pritchard's ahead of him. You could argue Tremont Waters is ahead of him. Aaron Naismith was their first round pick last year, who looked to have some potential. Romeo Langford, back fully from injury this year, will look to get some more minutes as well. So there's just a lot of competition in that backcourt with a lot of good, young, promising players. And so it's inevitable that they were going to have to move on from some of these guys at some point. They're probably going to have to continue to do so throughout this next 6 to 12 months. But inevitably, that was a trade that was going to have to happen for Boston. As far as looking at Memphis didn't need more depth at the guard position. They have Tyus Jones, have DeAnthony Melton off of the bench. That's not to mention that John Conchar and Sam Merrill and Shaq Buchanan are also on the roster as well. So they do have a nice bit of depth at the guard position. But they get a 2026 pick swap, which is something for them. They also get, of course, Carsen Edwards as a younger guard, as Memphis has continued to acquire good young talent that they can potentially develop into someone that can be better than they're projected to be, which is kind of what Memphis have done for the last 2 or 3 years, and they have done it very well. Something you have to do to succeed as a smaller market team, especially when their only real top pick in Ja Morant and then Jaren Jackson Jr. And as far as a power forward spot, trading away someone like Juan Hernangomez, I mean, he was never really going to see a spot on this team. They have Jaren Jackson Jr., of course. They have Brandon Clark. Xavier Tillman has seen some time at the 4. So there's really no need for this team to have Juan Hernangomez. It was just part of the return for Jarrett Culver. They didn't really care about him too much, and so it's not too surprising to see him moved. So they get a bit of a younger piece, someone with a little bit more upside in Carsen Edwards, and it's 2026 pick swap. Kris Dunn isn't too relevant in this deal. He probably won't pay much for this team. I wouldn't be surprised to see him dealt later on down the line in the season, as he is an expiring contract on a Memphis team that aren't really going to care about him too much this season moving forward. So that is my thoughts on the Memphis and Boston trade. Two teams getting rid of players that they don't really care for or have a surplus for at their position, trying to see if they can get a better fit with another team and get a little bit of value back that fits their roster a little bit better this year and moving forward. That being said, that is my thoughts on the Juan Hernangomez to Boston and Carsen Edwards and Kris Dunn to Memphis trade. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section about this trade. If you feel anyone won it in particular, then be sure to let me know. With that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to hear my thoughts on more things, NBA offseason and trades, then be sure to click the box on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the Boston Celtics offseason up to a couple of weeks ago, I believe, then be sure to click the video or the box on the left. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.